God, this was going to be a long car ride, Victoria thought as Devon hurried into the elevator behind her. He moved so sluggishly, and talking to him was nearly impossible. It was like talking to a wall. No, scratch that, a wall might have been easier. When he spoke, she was initially taken aback, not comprehending that he had spoken at all, let alone what he had said. What did you say? Victoria snapped, certain she had misheard. I said you're nothing special. Grendel talks to everyone like that, Devon repeated. Of course, the one time he managed to utter more than 3 words to her, it was an insult. Who the hell do you think you are? She retorted. The person who's driving you across town, despite you not bothering to ask first. Just assuming I have nothing going on and can drop everything for you, he said, his tone far from his usual self. Victoria took a step back, surprised by this unfamiliar side of Devon. She was at a loss for words. What could she possibly say in response? I'm not trying to be rude, Devon softened his tone, speaking a bit quieter. Nevertheless, it was still quite different from his usual demeanor. I'm just saying, he's a player. And I don't think you or anyone should trust what he says. Avoiding her gaze, he became fixated on something in the corner of the elevator. Obviously, Victoria replied, feeling insulted by his remarks. I mean, there's a level of trust we have to maintain. We're fighting side by side. But that doesn't mean I'm going to believe his flirting is genuine. Or that a vampire can ever be fully trusted. I just mean, you shouldn't have sex with him. You haven't, have you? Devon interrupted, his face reddening as he fidgeted with his hands, making a concerted effort to avoid eye contact. Have you? Victoria shot back, feeling the need to reciprocate his invasive questioning. As if someone like Grendel would ever waste their time with someone like Devon. It was akin to when kids in grade school ask the least appealing person out on a date, cruel, but something people like him did. Devon's eyes bulged as he turned to her. Wait, did you say vampire? It dawned on her that Devon hadn't been there the previous night. He probably wouldn't have had time to read the report, even if it was fully written by then. And she was certain nobody had informed him. Oh, yeah, Victoria started to explain, unsure where to begin. However, the elevator doors opened on the 3rd floor, and someone entered, a pale, peculiar-looking man in a tweed duster. She had refrained from discussing such matters in public the previous night, but now, knowing what she did, she couldn't help but wonder how many other people, whom she assumed were human, were actually vampires. How many did she pass each day? Neither she nor Devon spoke until after they were in the safety of his car, if that's what you wanted to call the rundown little car he drove, safe. Surprisingly, it had been quite clean inside. At least it smelled nice and she was never afraid of sitting in a mess. Breaking the silence, Devon asked, if you found out they were vampires, why are they still alive? His hands tightened on the steering wheel, turning his knuckles white. It was better than the eerie silence. So Victoria started from the beginning, from the raid, then Grendel's heart being torn out, to implanting them with devices to feel safer working with them. As she finished her story, Devon's fingers clung to the steering wheel as though grasping at a lifeline, looking as if they might fall off at any moment. He muttered something derogatory under his breath, which Victoria didn't quite catch, nor did she care much. The tale occupied the entirety of the ride, which was her intention, sparing her from having to entertain follow-up questions. She leaped out of the car before it had fully come to a stop, arriving 10 minutes earlier than her scheduled meeting time with Rex, already late by his standards. This was not going to be enjoyable. Rex tapped his fingers against his desk. He had been working on writing a summary of the night before, but his eyes kept drifting from the screen to his phone. He had already texted her to remind her they were planning on meeting to talk about everything. And she had already told him she was on her way. There was still over 10 minutes before she was meant to be here. If he sent another text before that, she would accuse him of being a control freak. He wouldn't have had to be that way if everyone else in the world would just do their damn part. Now it was confirmed there were vampires on the team. For how long would this go on? If it was up to him, he would just have killed them the previous night. Be done with it. One less thing to worry about. It seemed that he was the only one who wasn't taken in by their charm. Was this an ability they had? Or was he the only one in the group who wasn't stupid? As the front door opened, he leapt up, looking over the half wall that gave the illusion his workspace was separated from everyone else's. Victoria emerged through the door. Sorry, traffic was a bitch. She dumped the bag next to her computer. Rex stopped her before she was able to turn the computer on. I was hoping we could go downstairs for this, Rex said. Victoria gave him a look as she grabbed her bag. I had already written most of the report. I just wanted you to look through it. Rex glanced out the window. It's just, after what we learned last night, I don't feel comfortable talking about this up here. Yeah, she said as she followed him to the back of the building. I know what you mean. It took a second to kick in. But I was riding down the elevator at the Motel Dam Sanctum, and it hit me. Milo and Grendel don't have the telltale signs of being vampires. How many more of their kind are out there? Hesitating only a second before entering the passcode on the invisible number pad in the middle stall, he asked, "Why were you there?" His mind went to places he didn't have time for. Well, at least she found someone with money. Turns out Milo and Grendel are staying there. Her casual tone made it worse. Why were you there? Rex snapped. I mean, he tried to calm himself down. This wasn't a good look. Is it smart to be in a secluded place, alone with two vampires? She gave him the look, the same look she would give him before she would lose her cool. Oh, gee, glad you said something. I wouldn't have thought of that. She said as she punched him in the shoulder. Not a hard or even painful one. There was something playful about it. At the very least, it helped in lightening the mood. I agreed to meet Milo for coffee, in what I thought was a public place, Victoria started to explain as they descended in the elevator. Next thing I knew, we were in their penthouse. There was something wrong with Grendel. What was wrong with him? Rex questioned, only to receive a shrug from Victoria. That was stupid of you to go up there. It was probably part of their plan. What plan? Victoria questioned him like he didn't know what he was talking about, then she shook her head. Nah, Milo seemed really shaken up by it. Well, as much as Milo could. You know, show any emotions. I think it had to do with what we did with them last night. It was a trick, Rex said flatly. They know we know what they are and are now trying to win you over with sympathy since getting into your pants wasn't working. Unless I'm mistaken, and he already has. Rex knew he made a mistake before the words left his mouth. A second later, he felt a quick, painful sting across his cheek. Fuck you, she shouted at him. He wanted to be mad, but he could hear the hurt in her voice. We are not together anymore. And regardless. Even if I would be stupid enough to fall for his charm before, do you really think I could? With a vampire? Rex had known for a long time that the two of them would never get back together. He had expected that she would end up with someone who wasn't him. And he told himself as long as it was the right kind of person, he wouldn't care. He still firmly believed this. But even before finding out Grendel was a vampire, he knew he wasn't the right kind. He was, in fact, the worst kind. He knew it was impossible to get this through to her without looking like the crazy ex. So there was no point in holding back. Victoria opened her mouth to say something else, to say something more. But Rex spoke up before he even fully understood what he was going to say. If I find out you slept with him, I'm never talking to you again. Victoria took a step back, eyes slowly blinking. Taking in a deep breath, she composed herself. Fine. If that's how you think you can talk to me, let's get this over with so you don't have to be around me more than you have to.